How's it going, everyone?
Hey, Lance.
That was cutting it too close on our last call. We literally just hopped in from another call.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we are live right now. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. My name is Lance Ball. I'm the CEO of Area Scouts. This is our Area Scouts Procast. We do these every week, and we feature guests when we do these. This is a Procast to be able to do interviews with our special advisors, directors, and some other special guests that we will have on every week, as well as going over upcoming events and doing these streams on YouTube so that we can make all parents and athletes aware of what we have coming up. We also go through the platform itself. We have our director of sports medicine, Dr. Anthony Anzillo, and we also have Brian Murray, who's our director of baseball operation, and Nathan Biddulph is our director of neuro assessments. And we are going to first do a quick interview with Nathan and let you kind of tell you a little bit about himself and the business that he currently has and what he does and what he's bringing to the Area Scouts platform. And Brian Murray is going to do that interview now, and then we are going to go right into the platform itself and kind of show you behind the scenes of what we offer to our athletes and parents. You have the microphone, Nathan and Brian. Thank you for joining us, Nathan.
Thanks, Lance. Great to be here.
Yeah, hi, Nathan. Nice to meet you finally. That's
Brian,
great.
Yeah, good to meet you.
All right, man. So this is the portion where I kind of just go through a bunch of questions and kind of get to know you and get to know, your involvement with sports and kind of a lot about what you do. So let's just get right into it.
Okay.
People hear this term neuro skills and they want to know, kind of what is it? So, can you describe what a neuro skills coach does?
Yeah, no, it's good. So neuro, it's been around for a while. It's working on the brain, the scientific stuff. When you hear like pattern recognition or processing speed, not as much, just concentration or focus. We're talking about the stuff that sounds scientific. And to give you a little background history on neuro, one of the first professional athletes to do neuro was MJ. So Michael Jordan, he trained in neurotechnology, at the peak of his career. He was, he kept it secret, but he was using strobe goggles and it was speeding up his processing speed, and he was seeing more patterns on the court and things like that, right? And some big high profile athletes ever since have been doing neuro. So Steph Curry, he's been doing neuro for about 10 years straight. Tom Brady for about a decade, and you can see what it's doing for him. His mind gets younger, his body gets older, right? And pretty much a lot of the big name NFL quarterbacks are doing neuro. So you got Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Deshaun Watson, Josh McCown. These guys do neuro training. They keep it under wraps. They're not saying like exactly what they're doing, but it's just like underground secret, and like they all have different trainers and things like that. Okay, so like I was saying, neuro skills, processing speed, that's going to actually speed up the brain, make it faster. So when you have a faster brain, you have faster mechanics, right? So guys use that for bat speed or pitching velo. Those go up with neuro training. Pattern recognition, seeing patterns. So if you're a hitter, seeing the patterns of what the pitchers are going to be dealing to you, or as a pitcher, seeing the patterns of what the hitters are sitting on, right? So everything's patterns in baseball or in any sport, really. Patterns of offensive, defensive, no matter what sport. And then other neuro skills like decision making. That's huge. Attention. And that's where all focus really comes from, is from your neuro skills of attention. And then you've got impulse control. So not swinging at a bad pitch. That's neuro. Perception, how you perceive things. That's neuro. Sequencing. And that's what pitching is. And that's a neuro skill. So hopefully that kind of explains it. I know it's kind of still a little abstract, but just ask away if you have more questions on neuro.
Sure. Well, why don't we get into this? I think some of those questions will come out a little bit.
Cool.
So you graduated from BYU, the psychology degree. You've worked with many top performers, and I want to put that out there that you're not just working with athletes. You actually work with performers. You work with executives, and from the athlete side, you work with people like Josh Bell, all-star first baseman. When did you start working with athletes, and did you make that jump, or is that how you started? How did this all come about?
Yeah, I've been working in the neuro world for about 20 years. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I was like, this is for everyone, because I have been helping all sorts of people with neurological disorders. And so I put together a program, and I had already been, making programs and training and classes and stuff. And so it was really easy for me to put together a program, and then it spread like wildfire. I started with high school kids, got to college, and then minor leaguers, and then major leaguers. And it just, because it works, it was easy. It was just all word of mouth.
Great. So what are the typical reasons that an athlete seeks out your skill set? So is it they're slumping, or they just hear about neuro? How does it come about?
Yeah, they hear from teammates that it's helping their performance. I mean, everyone just wants to increase their performance, increase their velo, bat speed, stats, accuracy, finesse. So, I was looking at some of the players I'm working with and saw some of their stats lately, and it's just these minute things that make a huge difference. Like Jameson Taillon, New York Yankees starting pitcher. Before and after neuro, he's gone up. His curve spin has gone up. His fastball spin has gone up. Hitter's exit velo is worse against him now. And it's just those small things make a big difference. He was pitcher of the month last year for the American League. And, same thing with Josh Bell. His just from last year doing neuro in the off season, his exit velo's gone up, and his hard hit percentage and barrel percentage has gone up dramatically. And so you're seeing some, better season, and, stats, obviously everyone wants that, and barrels and all that, and you can see it big with guys like I'm working with Carter Kieboom. He could not find his swing. Spring training, he was like 0 for 25 or so, and we did some neuro, and he's got his swing back, and now he's hitting in the majors. And Lewis Brinson, he's actually been struggling for like 4 years to find his groove. He did neuro training with me, and now he's hitting cleanup for the Marlins. And so, I mean, I know neuro's not everything. What I like to say is neuro's the great enhancer, because these guys work really hard. And neuro's not, it's not the end all for everything. But what it does is it enhances everything. So if you're trying to get better at barrels, you do neuro and you do get better at barrels. If you're trying to improve your accuracy, your finesse, it's that catalyst that makes it happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I'm intrigued what type of training for the mind that goes on with that. So the next question kind of leads into that. It's our, area scouts, we really specialize in kids from, 10 to 18, 8 to 18, but the youth sports, right? So, and I've coached youth sports for many years, and I've seen athletes who have struggled because of a lack of preparation, if you will, not a lack of talent. So what suggestions do you have, or tips do you have for those athletes, the youth athletes?
Oh, I love that. I mean, seriously, preparation's huge. And like you said, not because of lack of talent, it's lack of preparation that gets in the way. And neuro is preparation, right? It's part of that preparation process that makes you ready for the game. So, when it comes to preparation, I mean, it's the same in anything, whether it's sports or whether it's school or career or anything, right? So to prepare for things, to get things done, you need initiation. That's a neuro skill. And then organization and planning to get those things rolling until you can follow through and complete those tasks. So this is all part of the preparation. Preparation breeds confidence obviously. And so you just feel great, and you don't even have to do any self-talk when you're just feeling confident. You feel like the man at the plate or on the mound. And I mean, obviously it's great for sports, but it's also great for life. It's great for career. A lot of high school, college players that I've worked with have upped their GPA, not doing anything different, but doing the neuro, because they're able to organize, plan, get things done, and plus their processing speeds up. So all those things help.
Okay. Yeah, and actually, I was gonna touch on the confidence issue. Youth athletes, a lot of them have that confidence issue where they are talented, but they strike out 3 or 4 times, in a couple games, and all of a sudden that confidence really plummets. And as a coach, I try to build them up. I try to get them in situations where we can show the positives that they're doing. But it would be great to have another type of training that they could do that would actually breed that. I agree.
Definitely. Awesome.
All right, so you'll be providing information as part of the Area Scouts platform to athletes through their online profiles with regards to Neuro Skills. What do you hope to accomplish with these youth athletes? And I think we touched on some of it, but what are the takeaways you think these youth athletes can get from the amount of information you're going to provide to them, the tips, the skills?
Yeah, no, great question. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's the enhancer, right? Like, so achieving their full potential really is what I'm looking for them. I mean, I'm not promising them that they're going to be the next Babe Ruth, but maybe their full potential is better than what they could accomplish otherwise. So in other words, maybe some kids will peak out in high school baseball, but with that extra boost, they can make it to college or D1 or whatever, and some of these D1 guys that could never make it pro, maybe they can make it pro. And so that's what I hope to accomplish is to get them to that next level to achieve their full potential.
Well, if you need a guinea pig, my son's definitely willing to assist. I'd love to see what you could do with his batting average. Would be awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, Lance knows I always try to get everything for my son, so I wouldn't be a good parent if I didn't.
Oh yeah.
So where can people reach out to you, learn more about you? What Neuro Skills has to offer?
Yeah, well, I'd like them to first reach out on here. So on the platform, take the neuro assessment, because when you take the neuro assessment, you'll learn a lot about yourself. I'll learn a lot about you, and we'll know how to go from there. If you want to learn more about, what I do and stuff like that, I have a website, neuroskillscoach.com. And, doesn't cover everything, but it gives you more of a grasp of what I do.
Great.
I have.
And
no, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lance. No, I was going to actually see if Anthony from, the kind of medical side had any questions before we get to the audience specific to this.
You're up, Anthony.
I'm just a sponge absorbing what you're throwing out to us. No questions come up. I think it's hugely important. So I'm thrilled that we have you on the platform to contribute to this side of things. It's honestly something we were missing before you. There's physical preparation can take you so far, and the mental side is huge.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Anthony.
Sure.
I'm glad to meet you and to be on board. Thanks.
Absolutely. Glad to have you too.
Thanks.
All right, I have some. We're going to do about. I don't know. Looks like I got about half a dozen questions here. So, hello, Nathan. Where do you typically start with an athlete? Is it all done virtually?
Yeah, it's all done virtually. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I work with people all over the world. So Canada, Australia, you name it. So, it doesn't matter where you're at. We do drills. I have players doing drills during the playoffs in their hotel room, right? So it can be done anywhere.
So you typically do them through a Zoom?
Oh, right. Mostly phone calls. So I'm totally up for Zoom anytime. One of the things that we talk about, especially for hitters, is their eyesight and to limit the screen time. And so we just talk on the phone. And if they need to see me doing a drill so they can kind of mimic it, we'll get on FaceTime or Zoom and do that.
You know, one story you told me, I thought it was kind of neat, was the, I thought you were going to go right into it when Brian asked that first question, is the Babe Ruth story, and how he, I forget how you told me it, but when we first met, you told me the story of how Babe Ruth kind of attributed what he did to the neuro side of his training.
Yeah, it's one of the best scientific findings we have in baseball. It was 100 years ago, 1921. They took Babe Ruth. He was at the peak of his career. He was with the Yankees. They took him into a lab at Columbia University. They ran tests on his body and brain, and they wanted to see, why is this guy so good? And it was processing speed. It was his visual perceptual skills. So in other words, he could perceive the ball coming at him. And the processing speed was 1/10 quicker than a normal man. So in other words, instead of, like, we only have 1/10 of a second to decide whether we're going to swing or not at a pitch. And so imagine being 1/10 quicker. He's just like, yeah, I'll hit this one out, right? Like, he just has time. It comes to him in like slow-mo, like a beach ball, right? And so that's processing speed. And so it's been proven. And one of the things he did is, because you're not born with these, I mean, you can be born with a healthy brain, and you can be born with a parent that pushes you to learn, and those are all advantages. But beyond that, you have to build your neuro skills. Everything's a connection to be made, right? So Babe Ruth had to build that. He just wasn't just, born that way. Kind of like Einstein, and I kind of go into that, explain that to players, but Einstein had to build his brain as well. So anyway, he built it for 12 years at a reform school where they were doing everything right for the brain. Now, not everything, I've incorporated a lot of those things, but there's still a lot more in my program beyond what Babe Ruth had, but he had it for 12 years. And so you think, okay, this is a reform school. And this reform school is knocking Major League Baseball players out left and right. And you would say, well, why is Babe Ruth so much better than all the rest? Because, it's a reform school, right? So if you're going to send your kid to a reform school, maybe it's for a year or two, maybe 4 years max. But Babe Ruth was there for 12 years. That's like doing neuro training for 12 years. And then when he got to the bigs, his brain was so beefed, he could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to be a pitcher, he could have been. In fact, his stats were so good as a pitcher. If he had stayed as a pitcher, he would have been the greatest pitcher of all time, better than Walter Johnson, Cy Young. Like, that's how good his stats were. And so he decided to be the greatest hitter of all time because that's where his brain could take him. So. And
when he was young, he worked in a fabric company or with his
so at that reform school, they did so many different things, right? One of them was he had to learn a vocation, and he became a shirt maker, and he would sew and sew. And what that's doing is not only is working on his visual motor skills, and when you sew, you use your feet too in those old machines. So it's using his whole body, but also it was working his processing speed, because he would knock out these shirts in 15 minutes. I'm not sure if he had a competition going with another student or he just wanted to get out of there and go play baseball, but he would knock these things out, and that was working on his neuro-cognitive efficiency.
That's really cool. What is the youngest athlete that you have ever worked with?
So a high school pitcher. He was a freshman when we started. And he is a junior now, and he's upped his velo 12 miles an hour. Now, obviously, that's not all neuro. He's getting stronger and stuff, but a big part is neuro. And I should mention really quick that I've taken guys who have not changed their physical program, pro pitchers who have upped as much as 4 miles an hour. So going from like a 92 to a 96, no change in physical program. And that's because fast brain equals fast mechanics, right? Slow brain equals slow mechanics. And so when they speed up their brain, they can speed their mechanics. And that goes for bat swing as well. Bat speed.
Hey, Nathan, Mike from Iowa. Who are some of the other professional athletes that you have had the privilege to work with?
Well, probably one of the biggest names is Alex Nedeljkovic. He was the Calder Trophy finalist this year in the NHL. So he's a goalie who actually for 4 straight seasons, he only got in a maximum of 4 games as a backup. He was the 3rd string backup for the Carolina Hurricanes. And he did neuro training with me, not just for 3 months is usually a full round, but he did 6 months. He did 2 rounds. And then he went in there and he just tore it up. He led the NHL in actually 4 different categories. And yeah, I mean, he was on fire. And so he's one of the best goalies in the NHL now. And then just there's a ton of minor league baseball players I work with, tons. I mentioned a lot of the major leaguers. I mean, there's D-Rob, Cody Ponce, a few others, but most of my clientele is minor league baseball players. I just have a ton that I work with.
What are some of the other advantages outside of performance that you have seen come along with the neuro training that you have done?
Can you say it again?
What are some of the other advantage outside of performance that you've seen? Is there I guess that question would mean, is there something tied to maybe calming someone or is there other attributes that people can improve on based just on the neuro training outside of the actual performance on the field?
Yeah. So beyond just sports performance, and that's why I work with all types of people. Like there's a fitness element helps with, there's career elements. That's why I work with a lot of executives. If you go to my website, you can see some crazy stories from executives that, went from an idea to having a $20 million building in 6 months, that normally would have taken years and years to build. Yeah. So, I mean, and relationships, people tell me all the time how much their relationships improve. And again, they're working on the relationships. It's not like you just do neuro and all of a sudden your relationships get better or your business gets better. It's that you're working on your business, you're working on baseball, you're working with these guys. I mean, it really takes a team. It takes a village. It takes a community to make this happen. But neuro is the great enhancer. Your brain's like a sponge. It absorbs everything you do and everything just gets better.
Hi, Nathan. My son is 17 years old and recently has been having panic attacks when he gets called to the mound to pitch. Is this something that you have ever worked with on the neuro side, or is this something that he just has in him?
So that sounds like it's mental skills, something that they are more qualified for, but I have worked with guys without addressing it. So I'm not, I do have that degree in psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. And so I have seen guys with anxiety issues, and I have seen guys with what do you call it? Where you just can't throw anymore. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The yips.
The yips. Actually,
and you're not supposed to say that word.
Oh,
it's like a word that's not said.
Sorry. Okay, that's why I couldn't remember it. I'm sorry. Whatever that was, where he just wasn't able to throw, he overcame it with neuro. They say, because I've done a little research on it, it could be psychological, it could be neurological, but I'll tell you about 2 players. I had a guy who was a very high-ranked pitcher with LSU, and he just couldn't throw anymore. It just wasn't accurate. And his ERA before I met him was like a 9-something ERA. And then we worked together, and then his ERA was in the 3s. We didn't address that. We just did the neuro skills, but it's something clicked in his brain. Same with a catcher that he couldn't throw to second anymore. And we just did our neuro stuff, and right now he's in AAA. But I just want to say that I'm not the most qualified person to work with. If there is a clinical anxiety or something, I can work with you and maybe it'll help, but it's the mental skills. We got a guy on the team, Brandon, right, who's really qualified for that. So I just got to put that out there.
Two athletes actually come to mind when you just talked about that. And on the pitching side, Rick Ankiel, do you remember him?
Mhm.
When he just all of a sudden couldn't throw. He ended up becoming a great hitter and outfielder because he couldn't pitch anymore because he had the yips. And then the other one is Chuck Knobloch. Remember him at second base? He couldn't make the throw to first base anymore from second base. It was crazy. Just like overnight, he just could not make the throw anymore.
It was insane.
Yeah, he was sailing him into the stands.
Yeah, he threw it into the stands a few times.
Yeah, no, it was
Wow.
yeah. Is neuro training something that eventually ends, or is it always needed for someone who needed it initially? Is it something that you feel someone can learn and be self-taught once they learn it for the first time?
Wow, that was such a good question. Okay, so neuro skills training is like going to the gym for your brain. So if you stop, it's like going to the gym for your body and then being like, you know what, I'm good. I don't need the gym anymore. You're going to see diminishing returns after you stop going. But, you know, there are guys that have a lot of success just working on it in the off season. Then they're going to just focus during the whole season on baseball. And then they come back and work on the off season again. So it's not that, you know, you're going to lose it in just a few months, but it is something like going to the gym that you want to just keep going and building and building and building. You can feel it when you stop. I mean, I do my neuro every day because if I don't do it, I can feel the diminishing returns if I stop. Does that, I don't know if that answered.
Yep.
Was there any more of that question?
Nope. That was
Okay.
it. Do you work with female athletes as well? And have you ever worked with gymnasts?
Oh, cool. Well, I would love to. I have not, I mean, except for my daughter, and she's just a little gymnast. But yeah, of course. Well, I work with a lot of female actresses. And so they, you know, and neuro, no matter what we're doing, if it's business or acting or whatever, there's always a physical element. So when it comes to physical drills, athletic stuff, have worked with females, but when it comes to just straight up athletes, it's been pretty much men and boys.
Awesome. All right, that's all we had there. If you could, one more time, Nathan, maybe just give out your URL, and Nathan is going to be, you know, his content is going to be on the Area Scouts platform as a neuro assessment for our athletes. So you'll be able to access him directly through Area Scouts as well, which is at www.areascouts.com. And Nathan, if you could maybe plug your site as well so that people can learn a little more about your services too.
Sure. It's www.neuroskillscoach.com. So again, just neuroskillscoach, all one word, .com. And look forward to you taking the assessment and then working together. Got this virtual program where you can do it from anywhere. And yeah, I'm excited. Really glad to be a part of this team. This Area Scouts team is fantastic. So just super excited. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Brian, I'm going to let you share your screen, and you can go ahead and go through Area Scouts.
Oops. All right. Thank you, Lance. So we are going to just go through the basics of the Area Scouts program. And then at the end, Anthony is going to take you through what the base assessment's all about. So I'll briefly touch on it, but Anthony is going to give an in-depth explanation of the base assessment. So as you can see here, we have an amazing team. We also have to get Nathan up on this board too. We'll find a spot. We'll probably take a logo off or something. So don't worry about it. We'll get you up there, Nathan. But as you can see, you have 3 Olympians as part of our director staff. So for each of the sports, we're just really blessed to have all of these fantastic directors that are helping out in building this material for our athletes. You know, Mike Medici, you know, is a longtime MLB scout. that was with us when we started the program. And Anthony, the creator of BASE, has really beefed up our biomechanics and athleticism portion. And then you can just look at all the names. I mean, the big one that stands out here is Fred Mcgriff, of course, right? 493 home runs, and just a great all-around guy looking to give back to youth sports. So you can find the profiles of all our different directors if you go on to www.areascouts.com. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time tonight to go through each and every one of them, but there's a lot there, and we have great representation across all these different platforms that we have. All right, so as I said, Anthony's going to go through a little bit of presentation on BASE in a little bit, but I'll just tell you it is a complete assessment of an athlete's overall physical foundation. Really is amazing to get them to realize where they need to work and what improvements they need to make from a physical standpoint to then, of course, increase that performance on the field as well. All right, so as we go through, each athlete goes through a BASE assessment, and then they do a sports-specific assessment. So for football, baseball, softball, those are going to be on-field assessments. Volleyball is going to be on court. And we're going to go through and we're going to break down every aspect of the game for the athletes. So we, for softball and baseball, are going to look at their catching, their fielding, their pitching, their hitting. We're going to take video of each aspects of the game that they're playing. Some of them do outfield, infield, and pitch and catch. You know, a lot of our youth sports, especially towards the younger side, are doing multiple positions, and they're playing all over the field. So this gives them a good all-around understanding of the fundamentals they need to work on. So we take that video and we break it down for benchmarks that are set by our professional athletes that are on the director's board. And we're able to really give them a list of drill skills that they need to work on to get better at each of those aspects. Also on that on-field assessment, we're going to take a complete set of metrics. So we're going to look at the hitting velos, the exit velos. We're going to look at the bat speed and the distance off the bat. Pitching, standardized pitching metrics, your velocity, spin rate, spin axis. You know, spin axis tells you a lot about how you're throwing the ball, if you're getting around the ball, if you're staying behind it, you know, and can give you a lot of good information there. Fielding, glove to glove times. And, you know, people say, well, what's a glove to glove time? So we just don't want an athlete throwing as hard as they can because they can get injured trying to do that. We want to create real game type situations where they have to get the ball in the glove and get it to their target in a certain amount of time. That's what the objective is on the field, and that's what we like to measure. So we do take velocities when they do that, but it's a real game type situation where they're catching a pop fly or fielding a ground ball and getting it to their destination as quick as they can. Same thing with pop times. We're going to take pop times and velocities for the catchers that are in the program. Affordable for every family. That's what we've built this program on, is trying to make sure that all this professional resources, all this amazing material that our directors have put out, you know, is affordable for every family. So doing the BASE only, which includes 2 months on our platform and 2 months of the development that Anthony has worked so tirelessly on, is only going to cost you $117. Again, you're going to have access to all of the biomechanics, athleticism, and all the different videos that Anthony has produced to really help you become a better moving athlete. If you do want to include the on-field assessment in that, you know, it's an additional $50 and then an additional $10 per month for the development material there. So you can start with us by doing the BASE. It's the first step and includes 2 months on the platform for only $10 a month going forward after that as well. Lots of partners. We've grown our partnership board here. I remember, you know, about a year ago, there's probably 2 on here, 2 or 3, but really have some great partners now, partners with New England AAU Baseball. Sports Cert, I'll touch on towards the end of this. Kinematic is a metrics gathering device that is very mobile. So it's got a bat attachment and a ball. You can get a lot of metrics from it when you're out in the field. The Scout Hub, we do not do recruiting personally within the company because we have ties with Division I baseball, softball and some other sports that we have Division I coaches. So because of the NCAA rules, we're not allowed to really recruit for athletes or get them recruited, but we do have a partnership with the Scout Hub that athletes can utilize if they want that type of service as well. And PowerFlex, Performance Cord, Axio, and Clean Fuego are training devices that we support and sometimes use in our videos for the athletes. And they will, especially Clean Fuego from a pitching standpoint is going to give you, so it looks like a hockey puck, and it'll give you the spin axis and show you your curveball and how it performs, fastball if you're getting behind the ball or around the ball. So it's a really good tool as well. All right, now we're going to go into the profile and what it kind of looks like for each athlete. So you sign in here, and this is app.areascouts.com. That's where you access here, and you can sign up. And then when you go through, you're going to get a profile that looks like this. And yes, with the same last name, that is my son there. So you're going to have a lot of personal information on here. And then down towards the bottom of the profile, you're going to be able to really guide yourself where you want to go. You can request an evaluation with us. This goes directly to your evaluator. You can request training, a little different from an evaluation. A lot of our evaluators will also do personal lessons, one-on-one lessons with athletes, depending on what their skill set is. So me personally, I do pitching lessons. So some of the athletes that I work with, I also do pitching lessons with. But if there's somebody that wants catching or hitting lessons, I feel very comfortable pointing them in the direction of the right person that they need to go to get the proper training. So we really want you to use your evaluators as a one-stop shop and helping you through your development period as a youth athletics. And then if you have a question, you can click on this button and ask a question to your evaluator, or just contact them directly. This is a direct line to your evaluator. And then from the premium side, you have base, and you also have the premium athlete, which includes the sport-specific stuff. And we also have assessments on here as well for the mindset and nutrition. And soon to be up here is the Neuro Skills that we talked about with Nathan. When you go into the premium section, you're going to see a lot of different tabs. Some of it is athlete populated, like stats and profile. So the athletes can put in their stats that they have, and they can go back as many years as they want. So they could have 5-6 years of stats in here. This is great to track. If you're in the Area Scouts program for 3 or 4 years, you're going to be able to see what your RBIs were 2 years ago versus what they are now. And that's going to give you that assurance that this program is helping you as an athlete. Also, we have benchmarks. So let's go through those metrics first, and then we'll go to the benchmarks. So with the metrics, we use a lot of different equipment because our evaluators have access to a lot of different equipment. So the standardized ones here are for Biomechanics, which is one of our partners, but some of our evaluators do have access to Rapsodo, Blast Motion, HitTrax, TrackMan. So, we really want to be able to use anything that our evaluators can get access to. And we have hitting metrics, pitching, catching, fielding, base running. With this example here, we have some of the hitting metrics: max exit velocity, total spin, launch angle, distance, spin axis off the bat. You're going to see very similar things with the pitching, where we're looking at velocity and spin axis, spin rate for different pitches, curveball, fastball, changeups, and really being able to track all of that data that you can then use during your, attempts to get on other teams, travel teams, high school teams, college teams. Really have all that information at your fingertips to be able to send to these coaches to promote yourself and show them what you've done and how much you're working on being a good athlete. So then we go to the benchmarks. First, we're going to go over the base benchmarks. And in this example here, we have a standing toe touch, one of the simplest tests that we do with the athlete, but does show us a lot of things that the athlete could work on from a flexibility and mobility standpoint. So the objective is for the athlete to touch their toes for 3 seconds while keeping their knees straight. In this example here, the athlete was only able to touch their ankles with their knees straight for 3 seconds. And they're going to get a mobility and a motor control exercise when they click on View Corrective. Anthony's video here is going to pop up and give them an exercise or drill that they can do and to improve that mobility and motor control in that category. So there's a bunch of different categories for biomechanics that have these. We also have things for athleticism, sequence of movement, and endurance. We go to the on-field assessment benchmarks. We have a ton of these. It's amazing how much of each position, each aspect of the game can be broken down into benchmarks. And we do that Example of that here would be the leg lift. We have all these different objectives that the athlete needs to hit to be in the right position, body positioning, to get the right amount of power and keep that kinetic chain in the right sequence. So for this one, we had an athlete that had toe dominant lift, and their knee was tracking to first if they are a lefty, or third base if they are a righty. And we have correctives here. This is our director of pitching, Josh Zide, Olympian with Team Israel, going through and showing you a drill that's going to be able to keep you from having that toe dominant lift and keep the pressure in the arch of your foot and 3 points of contact with the ground with that support leg. So a lot of great drills, a lot of great videos. He also has an arm care program, and really a great asset to our team. Okay, next I want to touch on SportsThread. So like I said, we're not a recruiting company, but we do allow the athletes to self-promote themselves through SportsThread. SportsThread is an online sports media platform that allows athletes to put all of their stats, their academics, their videos, their metrics, and reach out to college coaches across the country and provide them a copy or a link to their profile so that the college coaches can take a look at all this great information that's been tabulated from area scouts and really be able to take a good look at what this athlete can do and if they think they'll be a good fit for their program. All right, that concludes my portion. Now I'm going to hand it over to Anthony for a description of BASE.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. That was a great explanation of all that stuff. So my name is Anthony Anzillo. I'm a physical therapist and a strength and conditioning specialist. I had the honor of creating the BASE assessment. So as you heard from Nathan earlier, he mentioned that his goal, his mission really is to help every athlete reach their full potential. And that really rings true to everything we try to do here at Area Scouts. So it's great to have that continuation. So regardless of an athlete's what their current level is, we want to help them reach their full potential and make it to where they can continue playing their sport at a successful level for as long as possible. So for that to happen, breaks down into a couple other goals. One, we need to keep them healthy so that they can stay on the field. And in addition to that, we need to improve their performance so that they can be successful and continue to earn playing time and earn opportunities to play at the next level. So all of that ties in together. And in order for those goals to be met, they really need a good training program. And so that's where the BASE assessment comes into play, that before we can give an athlete a proper training program for them, we need to understand what their current physical level of preparation is. And that's really the goal, is to make sure that the athlete's body is prepared to withstand the demands of the sport that they're going to play. So enter the BASE assessment. It's extremely comprehensive. Try to make sure that no stone goes unturned and that every joint and every muscle is used and evaluated throughout this assessment. So throughout the assessment, there are 4 different major categories that you can see on the screen. First is biomechanics. You saw one of the biomechanics tests that Brian touched on a little bit with the standing toe touch. So biomechanics, what we're really looking at is fundamental movement patterns that pretty much every athlete and really every human being should be able to do well. They're simple movements that tell us a lot. So for example, with a standing toe touch, the most obvious thing that you would expect that someone needs to do well on a standing toe touch would be hamstring flexibility, but really goes further than that. It also requires good mobility of the hip joints, good mobility in every joint in their spine, as well as the motor control and the stability of their body to put all those pieces together and allow them to move in a coordinated fashion. So if the athlete's lacking any of those things, any of those links of the chain, then they're not going to score the best score on that test. And they're going to receive targeted corrective exercises in order to address those impairments to allow them to move well. And really, it's not just about them doing well on a test and being able to touch their toes. It's about clearing up any physical limitations that will then could potentially hinder them on the field or lead to increased risk of injuries. So you saw, he also mentioned in the pitching breakdown how one of the benchmarks looked at for pitching is that when that pitcher goes into their leg lift, that their head and their torso are centered and stable over the hip. So if an athlete has poor strength or stability in their hip and poor balance in their foot, there's no way that they're going to be able to perform well on the field in that specific moment. So really it all ties together. So there are 7 different movements that we look at in just the biomechanics section that we get a lot of information from and can help to provide exercises to clear up a lot of issues just in that. And then next we move into the athleticism section, and that's where things get a little bit more physically demanding. In that section, there are several tests of both upper and lower body strength and power that we measure side-to-side differences. So another big risk factor for injuries are asymmetries throughout the body, both in mobility and in strength. So we're able to compare side-to-side performance and compare the athlete's performance to those within their age groups, within their sports, and compare it to normative values, and then provide additional corrective exercises to improve their strength and their power and their control for any deficits that we find in that section. Also in that section, we're looking at various tests of speed and agility, and again, able to provide correctives on those areas that they're lacking. After that, we move into the sequence section. And when we talk about sequence, what we're describing is the kinematic sequence. And that's basically how efficiently the athlete's able to transfer power from their legs through their core to their arms. And typically their arms are what's delivering the power, either through holding a bat or a club or the ball that they're throwing. And it's most evident in rotational athletes, but pretty much all of the good ones develop their power and the acceleration of those body segments in that order, from the legs through the core to the arms in a very coordinated fashion. So we have a series of tests that we can evaluate their kinematic sequence and their power development, and then again, of course, provide correctives to any test that their performance is lacking on. And then finally, we move into the endurance section. And here we're looking at both cardiorespiratory endurance and core muscle endurance as well. And endurance is very important both for reduction of injury risk and in improvement of performance, because fatigue is a risk factor for injury and it's a risk factor for poor performance. So the more resistant an athlete is to fatigue, the lower their risk of injury becomes, and the better their performance is able to be maintained toward the end of a game or an event or a season. So all those pieces are extremely important. And again, that's really my favorite part of all this, is not only can we identify with a lot of accuracy which specific areas that the athlete is lacking in physically, but they're immediately provided with the tools to correct those things and do something about it. So this really takes care of a lot of the physical foundation. And then after that, the athlete moves into the on-field assessment, where they can look at more sport-specific things to build on these physical skills. And then, now that we have Nathan to tie in the mental aspect of all this, man, I feel like we've got a lot covered.
Thank you, Anthony.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to go. We got about 10 minutes here for questions. So I'm just going to, I guess this one's for you, Brian. Brian or Anthony, what do you deliver all the training through the platform, and how do you decide which trainings to supply to the athletes? Is it delivered on a weekly or a monthly base type thing?
I can take that, Anthony. Sure. Yeah. So the trainings are decided. So it is athlete specific. The training, it is decided by either the scores they get on the tests through base, or it's decided by the benchmarks that they hit in one of the aspects of the sport specific. So for instance, I covered, an example of pitching, but if on the leg lift and pitching, they're only hitting, one of the benchmarks, they're going to have 3 other benchmarks that are flags that they need to work on, right? So it's specific to what we evaluate through the video we take of the athlete doing that aspect. And similarly in base, when we're doing the biomechanics, we're scoring them from a 0 to 3. 1, they're getting a different video than if they scored a 2. They're getting a little bit more advanced video. But it is specific. If they scored a 3, they're not going to get any video at all because they are, proficient in that movement. But that being said, that does not mean that when we reevaluate the athlete, say 3 to 6 months down the line, that something's gone on. You have to remember, we're working with youth athletes that are going through changes in their bodies, changes in their structure. So there are things that come up that we may not have seen on the first one that pop up on the second. And so it's actually there for you all the time to use. It's not delivered on a weekly basis. You have access to everything specific to you right away as soon as the scores and benchmarks are entered. And then when you have a reevaluation, they'll either have some that drop off or you may have some that are added that will keep your development going.
And just to touch on the other piece of that, they're all delivered virtually. I know myself, I created all of the corrective exercises for the base assessment for all 4 of those sections. And then each sport specific and position specific director created the correctives for, each of the position specific assessments. So I can tell you for the base correctives, they're delivered electronically, so the athlete can pull it up on their phone, do the things either at home or at a gym. I try to make it so most of them require minimal to no equipment, and still can be highly impactful. Just wanted to touch on that.
And how much does it cost to create a profile? So the profiles are completely free to come on and build out your profile. I just want to touch on that. So the kind of everything that Brian's gone through are the services that are kind of inside the platform to create the profile itself for your athlete, for your son or daughter. It is completely free. Every director, has a piece of content that kind of gets offered to the athlete. So as they go through, like we had Nathan on tonight, Nathan is going to be delivering a neuro assessment, and that'll be able to decide if your athlete needs that neuro skills direction, that neuro skills coaching. There is a mindset performance assessment. There's a nutrition assessment. And a lot of that comes along with that was built by Brandon Geyer, who's our director of mental performance and nutrition. A lot of that comes with content that he created that actually not only gives your athletes that advice right there in real time, but also offers them the ability to also reach out to Brandon and get those services through him as well. The base assessment and the on-field assessment is what our evaluators, our individual evaluators, give to the athletes themselves. They meet those athletes on the field, and those are the services that would charge an extra $10 or $20 a month, depending on which one your athlete signed up for. But the profile itself is completely free to come on and check out. My 16-year-old son just completed recovery from torn ACL. I know anything can happen, but do you feel that base assessment helps in preventing an injury like this from happening again in any way? Anthony, that would be you.
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to pick up any remaining strength, mobility deficits. It'd be a great idea as a final test after rehab. It incorporates a lot of tests that are used that I use commonly in ACL return to play criteria to make that decision if an athlete's ready to return to their sport. So yeah, I think it'd be a great idea.
Can you go over the cost breakdown for a full year for my 15-year-old son if he joined the platform? Brian, that's kind of can go a couple different ways, but if you want to maybe give an example of maybe your son or one of your athletes you're working with now.
Yeah, so sports specific athlete, you come on, your assessments, if you do 2 a year, you're looking at $300 and $240 for the subscription for the year. So less than $600 for the entire year to get all this professional development. If you're base only, you're going to pay, ballpark $200 for the assessments for 2 a year, and then $120 for the entire year for the subscription. So you're looking at about $320 total, for some of the best athletic training you can get.
We are moving to Nevada in October. Do you recommend not starting until we move? And who do we reach out to when we are ready? What dictates which evaluator will be working with my daughter?
Well, I would say if you're moving to Nevada, you probably should check out our new Area Scouts place that's opening up in Las Vegas. If you're near there, it's called Legacy Sports. And all of the athletes that go there are Area Scouts members. So they have an included membership with the membership to Legacy Sports. So there's a few evaluators in that area. A lot of them are working around Las Vegas, but depending on where you are, we have a few others outside of that area. I think you can come on whenever you want because it is virtual as long as where you're living now. We have an evaluator close to you, which we probably do. We can get your assessment done and then you can bring that virtual. And I've actually given a lot of credit to Anthony on this part that, I've done assessments now with different evaluators and the repeatability of the assessment and how effectively they can do it. As one of the first people that came into the company and started doing these and then seeing the other evaluators coming on, they're doing them the exact same way. So no matter where you are in the country, you're going to get the same type of service, which is very, very important. So I don't think you need to wait. I think you can do it whenever you want.
I currently own 3 golf courses, one in the US and one across the pond, with over 20,000 amazing members that I currently have. I joined a little late. I'm not sure if you mentioned adding golf to the platform. If you're looking for partners or an investor, I am blown away at what you guys are doing. I would love to talk to someone if there's a future for me with Area Scouts and my golf courses. Would love to get involved with you guys and what you are doing. So Joe, I'm going to give you
that one's for you, Lance.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to give you my, hold on one second. I'm just going to put my information here. Just send me an email at lance@areascouts.com and maybe just drop your phone number in here and I will take that down. I will actually shoot you a text or a phone call in the morning. But yes, to answer your question, golf is definitely coming to the platform. I probably have 800 to 1,000 emails just asking about golf. That's kind of just been kind of sitting on the vine. This has definitely been a overwhelming process with getting everything up to the platform and all these sports and rolling them out one by one. And it's a lot of work, a lot more work actually than I thought it was going to be for each individual sport. So it's been a challenge, but golf is definitely without a doubt coming to the platform. But I would love to talk to you and kind of give you a real idea on when that is and talk to you a little more in depth about what you have going on and how we can work together on the golf side. What is your main audience age-wise on the platform? Brian, you kind of tell what you have working right now. I mean, it kind of fluctuates, depends on which age groups our evaluators are working with currently.
Yeah, I mean, we've had kids as young as 8. I would say the wheelhouse for our evaluators is probably between the 11 to 16 range is where you're going to have the majority of the kids. But yeah, I think 10 to 18 is something I usually use as kind of the target audience for this.
I think college players can benefit greatly as well. I know they're not the typical, but I still think that they would have a huge benefit.
And we actually have a few on the platform. So.
And I'm going to end, so there's about 4 or 5 different people asking about different sports, lacrosse, field hockey. We're literally launching these. We don't have a schedule for launch of each sport. What we've been doing is waiting until we have all of the best directors we possibly can have, get that content built, and then we're going to launch those sports prior. When we first launched the platform, we did that a little bit opposite because we wanted the platform out there and start to get athletes on board. But currently, before we launch any new programs, we need to have the directors in place, all the content on the platform, and then we're going to be launching those sports. So yes, they're all field hockey and lacrosse is in the plans. It's just not a date that I could give you right now, but they're definitely coming to the platform. A couple other people asking about who to reach out to in your area. Some people putting in cities and zip codes. So your evaluators, we've made it so that as soon as your athletes sign up on the platform, as soon as you put in your address, the evaluators will be contacted by geographical location. So wherever they are located across the country or Canada now, wherever you put in that zip code or province code, they will automatically be sent to the closest evaluator that is near you. If there's no certified evaluator near you, then we will redirect you to an evaluator that's certified outside of your area. And you can still do a virtual base assessment if you would like, or participate in some of the other offers that we have through, such as Nathan and Brandon. But we're every single day, we're trying to get, again, with less than a year that we've really been in full operation here. And some of these sports are no older than 6 months on the platform. So we're still filling out our team of evaluators. It's definitely going to take some time to get into every location that there is. But that's what we're doing every single day, trying to build up this team of, like Brian said, just really qualified professional evaluators that are out there delivering the same assessments that are all helping these athletes to, give them the best chance to stay healthy and get better at their individual sports. So I want to thank everyone for being on tonight, everyone that's been listening, all the feeds that we share this with, and Nathan, for your time tonight. I know your time is very valuable, and Anthony and Brian, appreciate you being on tonight and look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. This was a fun one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.